You can't predict the future, but you can prepare for it. Arizona State University is building degrees for what's ahead. Programs designed around emerging fields, taught by faculty whose research is shaping our future, not just teaching about it. It's why we've been ranked #1 in innovation for more than a decade. Your future is worth preparing for, and you don't have to prepare alone. Future-proof your career. Explore more than 350 programs at asuonline.asu.edu. That's a degree better.
You can never have too many tools. Shop DeWalt deals at Lowe's. Get a free Select DeWalt 20-Volt Max Power Tool when you buy a Select 20-Volt Max 5-amp-hour battery kit. Plus, get a free additional DeWalt 20-Volt Max 8-amp-hour battery when you buy a DeWalt 10-inch 20-Volt Max dual-bevel compounded miter saw. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 6/24 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And we've got a lot of topics to get into on tonight's episode, including a new plan from MLB that would radically change the draft on the domestic side as well as the international signing process. Before we get into discussing the Frederick Keys and their first half title in the South Atlantic League, and that will all be on tonight's episode, which is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Mix hydration mix, IQ Joe mushroom coffees are delicious, low sugar, brain, and body fuel you need to win your day. All IQ Bar products are clean labeled, certified, entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. All IQ Bar products are packed with clean, delicious ingredients that keep you physically and mentally fit, like magnesium, lion's mane, and more. With over 20,000 five-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body-boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Their ultimate sampler pack includes all three. IQ Bars become part of my daily routines, whether it's starting my morning with IQ Joe, grabbing an IQ Bar or IQ Mix to refuel or rehydrate after a hard workout. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64,000. Text MLB to 64,000. That's MLB to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. And as we like to do at the top of every episode, we want to welcome some new members to our Patreon community. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to Bob.
Muted.
I'd like to welcome two new members to the single A level. That would be Tom Freemo and David Ward. Appreciate you guys signing up. I hope you enjoy the content, and we're going to keep this thing snowballing. Hopefully just more and more stuff coming out as the months and years go by.
And as a reminder, you can join our Patreon community for as little as $3 a month. We also have pricing options available to $5 and $10 levels. You'll have access to bonus weekly shows from Bob, Nick, and myself, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 list. And in fact, we're only about a week or two away from our July update and access to patron-exclusive channels within our Discord community. So be sure to check that out over at patreon.com. Now, last week, a new proposal surfaced from MLB that would address the draft going forward, not only the domestic draft, but also implement an international draft. And Baseball America, among several other outlets, reported on the news last week. Some of the key takeaways here is that high school players would no longer be eligible for the domestic draft. They would have to play at least 2 years of college baseball before being draft eligible, and that would even get rid of the loophole that exists now where players can go to junior college and be eligible after their first year. So regardless of whether or not they're in junior college, the 2-year rule would apply. We would also see a $200 million hard cap on the draft, which would now have 12 rounds down from the existing 20. Those changes only affect the domestic side of things. On the international scouting side, the long expected sort of anticipated implementation of an international draft would happen in this case. Just like the domestic draft, there would be a hard cap of $200 million signing bonus. The key change here, though, is that players would no longer be eligible to sign at the age of 16. That eligibility will also move back 2 years to 18. A key thing to take away from this is that for right now, MLB says that it is not seeking to further contract the minor leagues. Right now we have 120 teams. Still, though, when you look at this, it does continue a trend that we saw with the contraction of minor league teams several years ago by effectively outsourcing parts of player development. In this case, what you would see is that your top high school prospects in the country would no longer be eligible to go directly into pro ball. Now they would have to go into college for at least 2 years. And then on the international scouting side of things, you would lose the current system where these players are free agents and are able to sign as early as 16 years old. And there are some other nuances that I'm sure we're going to get into about this proposal. And keep in mind that it is just a proposal. And the Players Union quickly came out to refute of their own, issuing a statement that said in part that MLB's plan would cripple the next generation of players and damage the future of our game. So far it seems like it's no bite from the players, but we've got a long way to go as we approach the expiration of the current CBA this fall. Nick, I'll start with you here. I think that most of our listeners can probably guess where we stand on this idea as a minor league focused show, but why don't you go ahead and start this one off for us?
Yeah, I mean, not even looking at it from our content perspective at all, just in general, it's kind of all bullshit. I'll start with a couple of things first so I don't just rant for like 20 straight minutes. We'll break it up a little bit there, but like typically I really don't have much interest in like any of the discussions that are going to be taking place with the CBA stuff. Like I don't care about the business side of things. 100% pro player, don't care about the billionaire owners, including the one here in Baltimore. But immediately, almost, the league is throwing out these proposals that affect the minor leagues, that affect the draft, that affect prospects. And so it gives us content for a week to talk about. And I'll start with like a couple of the positives. The international draft, I like. We've known that's been coming for a while. It's not going to fix all of like the shady, immoral, straight illegal activity. It's not going to replace all the corruption of the international signing process, but like a draft's not going to eliminate all that, but hopefully it can clean some things up, like 12-year-olds agreeing to $2 million handshake agreements with teams. And, you know, I know there are other things in that proposal that came out that would hopefully curb a lot of the actions of, you know, the trainers and agents that siphon off money and everything and all the other actions that take place. But like, I still imagine all parties are going to continue to find some loopholes and ways around the rules, but I'm fine with the draft. I like it. Yes, the Orioles are premier players in this market, and they did just sign 5 of the bigger names in the 2026 class, and the draft does kind of put everybody on a more even playing field, but I think at the end of the day, good scouting and good player development are still going to win out. So I'm in on the draft. I'm in on trading draft picks. I'm 100% behind that. That was also in the pros. I think you just couldn't trade your first round pick in back-to-back years, or you could only trade picks for like this current year. Regardless, I'm 100% trading picks. I would love to see like what that first trade looks like. If you're picking like 15th and you want to move into the top 5 to make sure you get your guy, I want to see what that compensation kind of looks like. The rest of it is nothing more than a way for billionaire owners to keep their pockets lined with more money. And there's no other way around it. And there's no argument against that. That's exactly what it is. And I have plenty more to say about that, but I'll open up the floor to you guys.
I will say that the idea of being able to trade draft picks is one that intrigues me. And I also like that this effectively does away with the qualifying offer by saying you're no longer going to get compensation for a player leaving your team via free agency. You can debate whether or not there should be some sort of compensation attached to that because it would seemingly help some smaller market clubs. But I do think that a lot of free agents get raw deals right now because they are tied to draft picks. And getting rid of that would help. I think it would get rid of one of the bigger sticking points in the relationship between teams and players. But the rest of this proposal, as I'm sure Bob is going to touch on here, does have some flaws.
Yeah, thanks. I hate it. Overall, I will start with the good, just like Nick did. I think that the international draft was inevitable. It seemed like the ball got rolling with that, the last negotiations of the CBA. And yeah, the thing I like about it is the 18-year minimum, the 18-year age thing. Let's kick that back a little bit. Hopefully, I'm sure it's not going to curtail all the behind-the-scenes nonsense completely that is negotiating with 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, what have you, but at least it should hopefully help curb some of that. I do love trading draft picks. That's one thing I'm jealous of with other leagues. I think there's a lot of fun potential there. I don't know why you would even limit it to only this year and not back-to-back years, but baby steps. I'll take what we can get. But yeah, other than that, it's just, hey, can we have these colleges substitute for our A-League teams and take over the development for us? And we can, instead of, if we can't save money with the major leaguers making all this money, let's shave it off the bottom side where all these young kids who are trying to live their dream, let's cut them out, get the college to take care of everything for us. I really don't like it whatsoever. Also think one of the most exciting things in minor league baseball and prospect tracking is when you draft a high schooler and they take off, like a Nate George or a Jaden LeRae seems to be doing this year. And all the most talented players internationally, it's when they get into the system early, move up the system early, get to the majors before their 21st birthday, 22nd birthday. Same thing with the high schoolers. Mike Trout, Alex Rodriguez, all these domestic guys that get drafted out of high school, shoot up the ranks. Those are always going to be your best bet at a superstar that's just going to help baseball overall. If there's a 2-year minimum in college, I mean, that's limiting that by that much more. They're going to get into the system at 20, 21. And you know these teams are going to, especially if there's a year less of control, they're going to drag it out as much as they can so that they can just get them in their primes when they're helping the major league team. And, yeah, it's terrible. So 85% bad, 15% good. Hopefully it's something to build off of, and hopefully it doesn't happen. But I do, and I don't believe them that they're not going to contract more teams if and when they do this. So, Nick, did you want to rant some more?
Yeah. The proposal said no elimination, planned elimination of minor league teams in 2030. But that's hard to believe when every other part of your proposal is all about slashing hundreds of millions of dollars that owners don't have to spend. And you touched on some of that, but like going from 20 rounds to 12 rounds, and both the college draft and the international draft would be 12 rounds. And you can sign UDFAs for a maximum of $10,000. Sure, a lot of these guys sign for low dollar amounts. They're UDFAs. They're not getting a bunch of money. But at the same time, then I think that becomes more like when you're competing for the UDFAs, that becomes more like you have to pitch your system, because you can't say, all right, we'll bump it up to $25,000 signing bonus. You can't try to edge out the next organization. So, I mean, you got to pitch your own organization. You got to pitch your player development. So again, better teams in that department could win out, but still you're taking money out of pockets of players. And it's just the 10,000 bonus limit thing is absurd, but slashing the bonus pool overall from 400 million is what almost 400 million, I think, is what teams spent last year, to 200 million. You're cutting that in half, and each slot bonus is firm, no negotiations. You can't underslot a guy. You can't go overslot with a guy. Whatever that slot bonus is for, that's what they're going to get. Again, you're taking millions of dollars away from the top players, and even hundreds of thousands of dollars away from some of the players taken in later rounds. But the making high school players ineligible and not being drafted is just absurd. Like, yes, and everyone points to the big names like you just mentioned, the Trouts, the Bobby Witts, the Gunners. When you're investing in that type of prospect, it's also very risky. But when they hit, obviously they hit. Look at who are the best players of the last 10, 15 years. Just that. Where did they go to college? They probably didn't go to college. Look at the biggest contracts in baseball right now. Where did those guys go to college? They probably didn't go to college. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. They're older. They're 2 years older. So they hit free agency when they're older. Like, why is that? Why do teams want smaller windows to negotiate for money and bigger contracts? I wonder why. But saying that you want these kids to enter the draft having spent a couple years developing in college and getting their education, that's where I call BS. And I love college baseball. It is genuinely my favorite sport. I have a very deep personal relationship with college baseball that means the world to me. So selfishly, like, college baseball is going to be awesome. This is your moment to shine. It's getting better and better. There may or may not be a delayed start to the season. We'll see how long this stretches out. But if there is, college baseball will start in February, mid-February. It will be your time to shine. But I don't know if a lot of people know that at college level, they're also slashing roster sizes. They're going from 40-man rosters to 32-man rosters. So every D1 school has 8 fewer roster spots available. So it's creating more parity. Look at who made super regionals this year. You got Little Rock and Troy and a bunch of other mid-major and smaller mid-major programs. D2, D3, JUCO, all those levels, they're going to benefit. That could be a good thing for the game of college baseball itself. It's going to be great. But like, college coaches are always on the hot seat. That whole argument of we'll let the colleges handle more of the lower level development. College coaches are always on the hot seat. It's always, what have you done for me today? And so like, if I'm a head coach, let's say I'm at Texas A&M, uber competitive SEC fan base, a ravaged fan base, alumni and donor base that are going to demand wins. I'm losing, who are their top two? Caden Sorrell and Chris Kopian. They're 2 top hitting prospects this year. They're losing to the draft. I'm losing 2 of those guys. I can't go to my administration and say, let's be honest here. We can be somewhat competitive next year, but I need to recruit the high school ranks hard the next 2 years. It's a reloading period here in Texas A&M. They're not going to buy that. You're getting fired the next year. You have to win now every single year. So what am I going to do as the coach? I'm going into the portal. I don't care about the freshmen. They're not going to get playing time. I don't have time to develop that freshman. I don't want them getting key at bats. There are always going to be exceptions, the guys who step up and play really well and shine as true freshmen, but that's rare. So now I need to win now. I'm going into the portal and I can just buy my new shortstop. I can buy my new outfielder and I can remain competitive year after year after year. No reloading, no rebuilding, none of that. So your freshmen, like, you're going to have to find jobs at smaller programs, more than likely, a lot of these kids. And college baseball is growing in like the, Wake Forest pitching lab. That used to be the gold standard, right? No one else has this. A lot of schools have these pitching labs, these hitting labs. Kids are going to these private facilities when they're in high school. But like, I can tell you personally that like, even some upper level mid-major programs, they don't have the NIL resources. They don't have access to a lot of that technology. And so they are behind the 8 ball compared to some of these bigger programs. So these kids who get bumped down to smaller schools, they're not going to have that same kind of access that some of the kids at bigger schools do and some of the older kids do. But the point is, like, the college coaches aren't prioritizing player development, even their best freshmen, because they need to win now and they're not going to trust the freshmen. And you see it all the time on like the pitching front. I do think some of it gets a little overblown where people are like, oh my God, the guy threw 110 pitches in a baseball game. He's a college guy. He's going to get drafted in 2 weeks. Good. Throw 110 pitches, go win the game. But like, also at the same time, you see a lot of these kids, like, they want to win. College baseball is extremely competitive. These guys are passionate. Jace Laviolette last year, breaking his hand. The next day, he said, take the bat out of my dead hands, my dead broken hands. He went out there, played, got a hit. Like, as a fan of college baseball, I love that. But as like an Orioles fan, maybe I don't want my favorite team to draft certain players who, like, I'd like their arms to be intact, right? So I just don't see why any organization, any GM would honestly say, I'm going to trust the college programs to handle those 2 years of development when I can get here. I can bring in the Jaden Loray. I can bring him in, and for those 2 years, I can work with them. I can develop our specific plan we have for them and help get them in a place we think they can be. Like, the colleges are not going to do that for these kids. And also, a lot of people are going to lose jobs. A ton of people are going to lose jobs, scouts and everything behind this. It's all one reason and one reason only: to save money. That's it. It's not bettering the game. It's not better for the players. None of that. There's no positive to that. It is strictly to save money, and that's it.
Yeah, I can't see the player development side of front offices even wanting anything to do with this, because didn't we just talk with Kobe Perez about how it's so much more beneficial to get these players in as soon as possible into buying into your development system, and then you're going to trust. There's a million different teams. You don't know. Like, I don't know. There's just so much that it doesn't make any sense to me. But
yeah, and those are valid points. If you are the manager of an FCL team or a low A team, honestly, even up to AAA, your job is player development. Your job is not tied to wins and losses. You don't have to appease the fans of your, local minor league team or alumni base or donor base, whatever, that you have to appease in college ranks. Your job is player development. That is what you are focused on. And to somehow decide, okay, we've always had this control in place for basically as long as the minor leagues have existed in their current form. We've always wanted this control. Now all of a sudden we don't want it. It doesn't make any sense to me beyond the fact that, as you both pointed out, and I think it's been a big topic of discussion here, just a way to cut more spending to increase revenue. And that's going to be a common theme of these CBA negotiations as we go on. Now, I will say this, which is that we still got a long way to go, as I pointed out in the intro. And I do think that you've already seen some pushback from major league players, which is an important thing to note because generally in the past, it's been very easy for the players to make concessions on the draft because they affect people who are not members of the union. Most players that are drafted are not going to reach the major leagues. And the ones that do, they'll get their payday down the line. They'll get to be in the union. They'll get to be part of these decisions eventually. But it's very easy to make sacrifices in the draft. But if players look and they realize, oh, well, this would have delayed my career by a minimum of 2 years, it would have meant 2 years later that I hit free agency, that's a lot different than what they did in 2012 where they put in the stricter bonus pools, got rid of the major league contracts, which I think was in that round of negotiations as well. This is a lot different than that. This is now you can go to a player and say, if you support this, you're basically saying, okay, well, the players that are coming up now are going to enter pro ball later. They're going to have to go through the rigors of college ball more. They're going to hit free agency a lot later. That's a much harder thing to sell to the players. And I think if there's going to be any changes to this down the line, it's going to be the high school part of this. That's going to be the big sticking point because the rest of this, I don't think the major league players care whether or not draft picks are on the table for trades. But they are going to care about what this is going to do to the union going forward and what it's going to do for players in their timelines hitting free agency.
I just you brought up Jalen Laray's name too to finish up this discussion, but fifth round pick last year, he got $562,000 signing bonus, $100,000 above slot value. Great, everybody's pro player. This is a prime example here. He was committed to BYU. So if he's prevented from entering the draft last year, he goes to BYU. He makes, I throw out maybe $50K he makes this year or as a freshman. Chances are he doesn't get regular playing time. I know he said when we had him on, he said the coaches were like, "Yeah, you're in competition for the starting job." Maybe they told him that, but let's be real. This is a Big 12 program again that could use some wins, could use some big wins. Again, are you going to trust that true freshman? Probably not. So maybe he gets $50K, doesn't get a lot of playing time. Maybe he does enough, fights off the portal additions next year as a sophomore. Maybe gets a bump to like $75K to keep him around. Or he's transferring to a smaller school where there's less NIL opportunity and less access to technology and inferior facilities, like I mentioned earlier. But he got to make that decision himself this year with him and his family. Do I go to college or do I go pro? He had all the power. He gets more than $500,000 in his pocket, way more than he's going to make in 2 years at college. And now he's 19 years old. He's still got, he goes on to Sarasota last year after being drafted, gets to work with Orioles hitting coaches all that time, play against tougher competition. He comes out this year. We've talked for weeks now about what he's done in the FCL, what he's now doing in Delmarva. He's not going to turn 20 until February. He could be in high A by the time he's 20 years old. If things go well, and there's a very long way to go for him, but he could be knocking on the doors of the majors, best case scenario, by the time he's 21. And otherwise, he would have just been drafted. He would have been fresh out of college. So he's got 2 extra years of working with those hitting coaches, worked with Orioles player development, who had that specific plan for him. And he's got the money in his pocket. And he's going to be able to reach those major league benefits. It's not even just the salary, but the insurance and all the other benefits that come with being on the 40-man roster and in the big leagues. But yeah, you also just can't say it's about education as well, when I feel like we've heard a lot about over the years. Teams are typically pretty good about including clauses in those contracts of, hey, here's $50K or whatever. Here's a stipend you'll get if you blow out your arm when you're 20 years old. We'll help pay for your education if you want to go back to school. Those are already in a lot of those contracts. So it's not the education. It's not, you want to tell me Mike Elias wants BYU to handle the development of a pitcher that he likes? Hell no.
Yeah, and not only that, Jane Laray, let's say this is in effect, he goes to BYU. Who knows what happens in 2 years? He could become a star for them and then get a higher draft. But right now, it's halfway through his first professional season, and he's tearing up low A. Probably going to get to high A before the end of the year. And then next year he's probably pushing for AAA time potentially. I mean, if things go extremely well, but I'm just saying, like, bare minimum, he's in AA by the end of next year, and very close to the majors. It's just, I don't know. Well, I would almost rather see it go the other way, where it's like there's no age limit. Like, you can declare for the draft after your freshman year of college, after your sophomore year of college. Take the limits off there, but I know that'll never happen.
It also feels like, I know the players instantly said no, and this is just the beginning of the discussions in the very, very early stages, but like this is where it's going. Like, some version of this will happen, and if it's not now, like eventually down the road, like this is where we're heading. So
right. I mean, the Major League Association, if they're going to give on something, it's probably going to be on this end of things, which, we'll try to find the silver linings if and when it happens, but right now it sucks completely.
I completely agree. And we'll have more on this, I'm sure, as the news comes out. Now, we haven't reacted to every plan or proposal that both sides have thrown out because, honestly, it's still so early in negotiation. We could drive ourselves nuts by reacting to every single little report that comes out. But this one felt worthy of bringing onto the show because it does have such a broad implementation or broad indication on player development. And, of course, as we've alluded to, certainly not over for this part of the discussion. So we'll be following this closely in the coming months. Now,
you can never have too many tools. Shop DeWalt deals at Lowe's. Get a free Select DeWalt 20-volt max power tool when you buy a Select 20-volt max 5-amp-hour battery kit. Plus, get a free additional DeWalt 20-volt max 8-amp-hour battery when you buy a DeWalt 10-inch 20-volt max dual-bevel compounded miter saw. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 6/24 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
to focus on some things that were going on the field in the past week, congratulations to the Frederick Keys, who rolled their way to a first-half title, winning the Carolina League North by one game over the Greensboro Grasshoppers, the low A or the high A affiliate of the Pittsburgh Pirates. And just to put Frederick's dominance into perspective, their first-half record of 41-28 was the second-best record in all of the or 41-23, was the second-best record overall in the Carolina League, and they also posted the second-best run differential in the league at plus 84. And over the last few weeks, we've talked about a lot of the players that have put up good numbers down there, whether it's been Ike Iris, Bahilo Aloy, Victor Figueroa, when even on the pitching side, Joseph Jirwa in the beginning, he got promoted to Chesapeake, but then you have a really strong contingent of arms that includes a Boston Bateman, Ibra Cartaya, Caden Hunter, Twine Palmer, and more holding up that rotation. So top to bottom, this was just a really dominant team over the course of the first half. And you go back to when we were previewing the season, we had a sense that Frederick was probably the best team on paper going into the season, but we know a lot of times things don't always play out according to plan because players get hurt, players stall in their development, whatever the reason is. But it just generally felt like a lot of things that could go right, not everything, but a lot of things that could go right for the Keys in the first half did, and that's what allowed them to clinch a playoff spot here in late June.
Yeah, I think partly what helped is, first, I think the pitching even better than we expected, because, this was the team to watch coming into the year. They've been relatively healthy on the position player side, and the pitching, like guys like Ibra Cartaya, Boston Bateman, Caden Hunter, Joseph Jirwa, JT Quinn, Twine Palmer, just the pitching has been amazing. Braden Sloan, go on and on. But I think also what has helped is the Orioles have seemingly a different philosophy this year than they have in the past with promotions, where they're just letting guys stay in one spot longer. Maybe that's more because of the talent pipeline clog. I don't necessarily think so on the position player side, at least. But like guys like Ike Irish, Wahiwa Aloy, Victor Figueroa, they could have all been promoted a month ago. And I'm honestly shocked that there wasn't a mass promotion once the first half officially ended over the weekend. But hey, it's not going to really change, I think, the overall trajectory, but we'll see how it goes. But I think it's really cool to have a team stick together that long where their talent can win out, and they got the division title, and someone else, all their best players won't be participating in the playoffs, but hopefully there will be some new crop of exciting guys that can take over the mantle, and maybe this crop of guys can go up to Chesapeake soon and win the second half title up there.
Yeah, it comes down to how much does winning in the minors matter. You hear that argument a lot, and I feel like I know somebody who pitched in the Padres organization, and he won a AAA championship over there in the Pacific Coast League, but and he said it meant a lot. He's now had surgery, was primed to reach the major leagues, had surgery, never reached the major leagues, and now he's pitching in county ball here in Harrisonburg, Virginia. But he said, like, look, it's still like, when you're with that group of guys and you're winning, like it is infectious. Like you catch that bug, you want it more. You learn how to deal with the losses as a team. You learn how to cope with the slumps of the season, like the whole thing. He said there was, in his opinion, he thought there was a lot to that whole idea of winning in the minor leagues. So congrats to those guys. An important core. You guys mentioned the pitching. Yeah, it's my big takeaway from it is the pitching. Great lineup, no shade towards the hitters. We've talked a lot about these guys, but it's JT Quinn with a 3.3 ERA and 65 strikeouts. It's Boston Bateman, who had that stretch there for 5 or 6 weeks where he was just almost unhittable. Yibar Cartaya with a sub-2 ERA, and I don't know why he's still in high A at this point. Jirwa dominated before we went up. Twine Palmer. Statistically, as a team, though, they tied for the second fewest home runs allowed in the entire league, playing their home games in Frederick, a very home run friendly park. Second most strikeouts. It's a good group. And offensively, it was middle of the pack as a team. I think they're between 6th and 8th in a 12-team league in average on-base percentage, slugging percentage, and runs scored. So it's, Victor Figueroa. You can find individual huge wins. Victor Figueroa, Viva Loyac Irish. Ellis Cuevas continues to be really impressive. The Leandro Arias, Braylon Tavera bounce backs we've talked about. But this team wins because of the pitching. And they kept the ball in the ballpark, and they struck a lot of guys out. And, like Bob said, go off to Double-A now. Be great. And second half, when you get into that championship game, you're in the championship series now, but let Jaden Lowray, let Miguel Rodriguez and Christian Rodriguez and Braylon Whitaker, the 2026 draft class, those guys will finish the job up there in high A. But it is pretty cool. I know I'm not a local, I'm not up there, but I do imagine it has to be pretty cool for a lot of Orioles fans in the Frederick area. Orioles baseball is now back, and they're winning. This team is good. It's fun. Here's a chance to win a high A title, first year back in the system.
Drew Burress, Carolina League MVP.
This has been fun to watch. In the years that we've been doing this show, I was trying to think of teams that would compare to this. Aberdeen, the year they won the title, that was a really strong team. I think that was in 2022. Norfolk the following year, 2023, that team was stacked and was dominant from start to finish. And Frederick, to me, almost sort of feels like a mini version of that, where lower level, but one of those situations where you had a strong core going into the year, and with some exceptions, that core managed to stick together. Everything clicked for them. And Nick, you're absolutely right. I think that you're both touched on this, where the pitching staff was a big factor in this. Being able to have a guy like JT Quinn there pile up the strikeouts the way he did. And honestly, in a lot of systems, he might be in Double-A right now. He probably should be in Double-A before too long. Iber Cartaya turning the corner the way that he has been really impressive. And all of that being done in an extreme hitter's park. That has not changed at Frederick. But the effect that I think we were not concerned about, but we were keeping an eye on coming into the year of home run to fly ball rates might skyrocket, walk rates might go up, hasn't really played out for a lot of guys this year.
Yeah. I'm very interested to see when this group starts trickulating up to Double-A. We've seen it with Jira, and he continues to dominate, but I think he's certainly on a slightly different tier, maybe, or at least the upper end of a tier. That might include a few other guys here in high A, but still, as more and more guys reach Double-A, I'm very intrigued to see what those numbers look like. Do we see big fluctuations? Do we see them continue to improve? It's going to be interesting, especially 2 years from now when we have 2-3 years worth of data and high A to compare. I think it's going to be a fun conversation to be able to have and look back as far as pitching development in the system and how it's going in the lower levels.
Yeah, I think the longer – I know the MedStar lab has only been in, 3 to 4 years, 3.5 years, but it just seems like it's getting better and better and happening earlier and earlier instead of waiting until guys get to AA. I feel like we're seeing it earlier. Jirwa and Hunter, before they even get professional innings under their belt, it seems like they've already been cooking a little bit with them. So it's been exciting to see. I know continue to refrain with we got to see it continue up to the major league level. I think we're starting to see it with Trey Gibson, who I think is adjusting fairly quickly against some tough lineups early in his career. But I think once this cavalcade of arms is going to get to AAA and above, it's going to be exciting times in Baltimore. I know it's been a frustrating season and a half so far, but the pitching is coming in a big way.
So just want to point this out real quick. We are a few games into the second half in the minors. Delmarva started off 2-1. They're tied with the first half winners, Fredericksburg, for first place after 3 games. Are you guys buying a second half breakout in Delmarva?
It's the second half is going to be the Jordan Sanchez show down there in Delmarva based on the way he's playing. I was looking at some Delmarva numbers in preparation for the next segment. Went with the Delmarva pitcher who may help. We talk about pitching in Frederick. Maybe pitching in Lowe is going to help lead the way down there as well. But I don't know, second half, look, those younger international guys who are down there for a second year, I think that's going to be the make or break for down there in Delmarva, and a pretty important, I think, storyline to follow.
Yeah, I agree. I could definitely see it. It's getting warm. Oh, it's already warm. It's getting hot. It's going to be the dead of the summer. These guys are going to love that. Jordan Sanchez already, ever since he came back from that injury, just looks like a completely different player than the first month and a half or whatever it was before he got hurt. Steven Martinez just had a brief time on the IL. He's back. Lorenzo had a great week of 900-plus OPS this past week. Cobb Hightower, he might just go straight to Frederick, to be honest with you, but he's rehabbing now after missing a good chunk of time. Jaden Luray is up and running. Elvin Garcia's hitting his first home run. Miguel Rodriguez looks great. And then you got guys like Wilfred De La Cruz, Jamon Noel, Cam Lee, Hector Campuzano, Adriander Mejia, who I think are going to come up. That's offensively when the FCL season ends. And then there's also guys like Holden DeYoung, Francisco Morale. So there's some decent pitchers that could come up and make an impact as well. So I would not be surprised. But if anything's going to hold – oh, did my audio go weird? If anything's going to hold back the Delmarva Shorebirds in the second half, I think it might be the pitching staff, especially if Christian Rodriguez goes up. I don't think you really have anybody to hold it down at the top of that rotation.
We'll certainly be keeping an eye on that. And with that, now we will head into our final segment of the night. Last call brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing. Located at 1421 Ridgely Street, Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre- or post-game drink. So be sure to check them out if you are heading out to the yard this weekend. But if you don't have tickets or you want to head over there when the Orioles are out of town, it is a great place to watch the game. Open 7 days a week, plenty of TVs to go along with good food and drink. That is at Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street in South Baltimore. And now for the first time in a couple of weeks, actually, we're going to do our shout-out of players outside the top 30 portion of our top 50 list for something they've done recently, whether it's been a good game, a good week, or just something interesting in their stat line that we want to point out. And for this one, I'm going to start with Bob.
We've talked before about how it's been a renaissance-type season for Frederick Bencosme in Chesapeake Bowie, his third time around. But he's just continuing to improve even. I think it's more than a hot start to the season at this point. It's only 107 WRC plus according to Fangraphs, but overall in the year he's batting .257 with an .811 OPS. The power is certainly higher than it's ever been, a .203 ISO. I think the highest his ISO had ever been previously was last year at 126, so that continues to grow. He's got 10 home runs already. If you just go back to June 4th, so like the past 2.5 weeks, he's batting .327 with a .992 OPS, .265 ISO, 151 WRC plus, walking 11% of the time, only striking out 7% of the time. So we're seeing him walk more and getting back to having that no swing and miss that we're used to from him, but also with the power. He's got 4 home runs in the last 2.5 weeks. So, yeah, I love what we're seeing from Ben Cosme. And honestly, I thought today or yesterday would have been the time to promote him to AAA and see what you got with him. But on the pitching side, I wanted to give a shout out to 2 guys who were not in the system about a month and a half ago. That would be left-handed 6'3", 24-year-old Steven Still, who was signed just not that long ago. Goes straight to Delmarva. I'm sure Nick could give more details about where these 2 guys I'm going to talk about were signed from and what they did in the past, maybe. But 20.2 innings of a 3.92 ERA in Delmarva. Yeah, he's 24, but it's a 2.75 FIP and a 20.4 K to walk ratio. And just for signed off the street indie ball in May, like to come in, and we talked about in the last month or 2 how desperate we were for innings. Well, these guys, the other guy being Andrew Herbert, 6'6", right-handed pitcher, 25 years old, out of indie ball, goes straight to A ball as well. 24.2 innings at a 0.73 ERA, 3.90 FIP, 17% K to walk ratio. These 2 guys just signed out of indie ball, basically off the street, and boom, gave the innings that the Delmarva Shorebirds needed in the low minors. So shout out to those guys, and who knows, maybe they can become effective relievers or get in the lab and see what they could do. You never know.
Like it. I did have to look real quick. Herbert, yeah, he was NAIA guy. So that was cool. Still was the guy who he was his indie ball team. He did an interview when he got the word that, when he officially signed, and he was like, he got the call from the Orioles and how it was a dream come true. And he was like, there are a lot of guys pitching. We're World Series champions now, who are UDFAs, and I hope to join those ranks. And I was like, you know what? I love the optimism, Stephen. Hopefully you are. But I'm going to go with my hitter, RJ Austin, to go back to Frederick there for a minute. He hit 318 last week, a pair of home runs, 4 walks, just 2 strikeouts, 4 for 4 in stolen bases, 444 on base percentage, OPS over 1,000 in 6 games. So it was a slow start to the year for him offensively, but then he started to get really hot, and then he just hit a wall. Maybe he did literally, and that's what put him on the IL. I don't know the exact injury, but he went on the IL. So that came to a screeching halt, and then he missed a couple of weeks, took a little bit of time, took like 2 weeks to settle back in when he got to Frederick, but coming off a hot week now. So hopefully he's picking up where he left off pre-injury. Again, never really any questions about the speed, defense, athleticism, but if that hit tool can take a step forward, like that's going to be a fun little jolt to the quality of depth in the organization, if anything. But for my pitcher, to go back to the conversation about Delmarva, and if Christian Rodriguez goes up, which he should soon, who leads the way? Maybe it's Brian Arancia. He made 2 starts last week. It was both against Myrtle Beach, I believe, but first one's 4 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. Second start, 3 2/3, 5 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, which was a new career high for him. So last 2 starts, not working very deep into games, for sure. Just 7.2 innings across 2 starts is not what you want to see, but 2 walks to 12 strikeouts was the key thing that I noted, because in his first 12 appearances of the year, 44 innings, he had 41 walks to 38 strikeouts. That's not good. In May alone, he went 16 innings, 3.78 ERA, pretty solid, but he had 18 walks and 6 strikeouts last month. It's just a not very good month. So these last 2 starts, pretty encouraging to see. And I think on the month of June, he's got 22 strikeouts to 8 walks in 4 starts this month. So a lot of numbers there. Point is, he walked a ton of guys, and now he's not this past week. We'll see if that continues. But he was a guy I had on my back end of my top 50 at one point this year. He fell off because of those walks. I don't think I'm going to have him back on my top 50 when we update it here in a week or 2. But again, he's just 20 years old. I'll repeat what I said in that top 50 episode. Just 20 years old. Coming from the JUCO ranks, 14th round pick last year. He was committed to an SEC program. I believe he was committed to Oklahoma, who I believe at as of right now is going to win the national championship over UNC. Fastball velo is strong. I know he touched 98 in college, deep pitch mix. The delivery just seemed like a mess earlier in the year, and it looks like it's cleaned up a little bit more. And I felt like that was probably his hindrance. He sometimes just didn't know where the ball was going to go, or real struggles to repeat that delivery. Looks like he's doing it a lot better now. So I think we'll see how the rest of this year goes, but I think he'd be on the short list of a possible 2027 breakout watch. It's very early, but
I said that exact thing on the Discord over the weekend. I think, I've been intrigued by his stuff from the first time I saw him this year, and the fact that he's so young. It's almost like a Michael Ferret situation where it's like, again, you get these building blocks and you start cooking with them. I'm very intrigued to see where he goes next year. Also, I wanted to say this joke. Hopefully, Steven's still in the system a year from now.
I'll go over it now in my hitter. Victor Figueroa extended his organization lead in home runs to 20 by belting 3 in last week's series against Hub City. And we've talked a lot about Figueroa this year, and for good reason, because the power is legitimate. And you look at the numbers right now across the board, 269 batting average goes to 348 on base percentage and a 606 slugging and a 134 WRC plus. So really has been an anchor in the middle of Frederick's order. Now on the pitching side, I'm going to go down to the FCL. KK Clark, a 15th round draft pick, last year made his professional debut on Saturday. Right now, he's technically on a rehab assignment with the FCL as he's on the 60-day IL with Delmarva, but it was a good debut for him. 2 strikeouts in 2 innings pitched. We had a little bit of intel about Clark coming out of the draft last year. He sounded like he could be an intriguing draft pick, and although we still need to see more of him on the mound, it's good that he's healthy and getting into games now.
Yeah.
A lot of arms coming back. A lot of arms. Like Holden DeYoung, talked about earlier. I'm always going to feel uncomfortable saying his name, but KK Clark. I feel like there's even a couple more guys who are recently coming back as well. And was a UDFA, Isaac Silva, right? So, and hopefully even more to come. So, it was nice to see, and hopefully he can still has time to get some innings this year.
Yeah, and I had to refresh myself. I'm not going to be able to load that website now; it's all going to crash. But KK Clark was at Mississippi State before he went to JUCO, where the Orioles drafted him out of. But I think he finished like second all time at Pearl River Community College. The JUCO he was at, he finished like second all time in strikeouts. I'm excited that he's healthy, back on the mound. Hopefully he can add to that Delmarva rotation in the second half.
Absolutely. And with that, that does it for this episode. We're going to be back later on this week to present our top 10 relief prospects in the Orioles farm system. You're not going to want to miss that. In the meantime, you can check out our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, and Twitch. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon.com and sign up to become a member today at the $3, $5, or $10 levels and have access to our monthly Top 50 Prospects updates, weekly bonus episodes, and a whole lot more. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens and Zach Spedden, you've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.
You can never have too many tools. Shop DeWalt deals at Lowe's. Get a free Select DeWalt 20-volt max power tool when you buy a Select 20-volt max 5-amp-hour battery kit. Plus, get a free additional DeWalt 20-volt max 8-amp-hour battery when you buy a DeWalt 10-inch 20-volt max dual-bevel compounded miter saw. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 6/24 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.